My name is Marcel, and I am 31 years old. I watched my boyfriend casually say one sentence that shifted our entire relationship, spoken as casually as a weather update. So, I'm taking Brianna to the game on Friday. He said it in the kitchen while I was making dinner, chopping onions for pasta like it was a harmless detail, like it didn't cut straight through the center of our anniversary. I remember the sound of the knife hitting the cutting board, the sting in my eyes from the onions, and the way my hands didn't stop moving, even after my brain did. I turned around slowly and said, "What game?" Logan looked at me like I was the one missing the obvious. "The basketball game, the one you got tickets for." My chest tightened so hard it felt like a physical grip. "Those are for us, for our anniversary." He shrugged. He actually shrugged, and that shrug told me everything he had been refusing to say out loud for months. I know, but Brianna loves basketball, like really loves it. You don't even watch the games with me. You just sit there on your phone. She'll actually enjoy it. I stood there holding the knife, staring at him, waiting for the punchline that never came. I wanted to yell. I wanted to ask him if he had lost his mind. I wanted to remind him I had spent 2 months saving for those tickets, refreshing pages late at night, tracking price drops, telling myself it would be worth it when I saw his face. But instead, I heard my own voice come out quiet and flat. "Okay." Logan blinked. "Okay." I nodded, like I was giving him permission to take something that already belonged to us. "Yeah, okay." Relief softened his face immediately, like he had been bracing for a fight and was grateful I didn't make him feel guilty. "Thanks, babe. I knew you'd understand." Then he walked past me like this was settled and headed toward the bedroom to change, already moving on, already excited about a night that was supposed to be ours. I went back to chopping onions, but my hands were shaking. The onions burned my eyes, and I let them, because it was easier to let my face look wet than to admit what was happening. I wasn't just being replaced for a basketball game. I was being relocated in my own relationship, pushed aside with casual confidence, like I would always accept the smaller piece as long as he spoke gently. Logan and I started dating in the spring of 2022. He worked in marketing at a tech startup, the kind of place where everyone called each other family and stayed late for team culture. I was a project manager for a construction firm, used to deadlines that didn't come with after-work drinks and inside jokes. We met through a mutual friend at a rooftop party, hit it off over cheap wine and city lights, and for a while it really did feel natural, easy. Logan had this laugh that could disarm anyone, this energy that made boring weekends feel like small adventures. By month 6, we moved in together, into a small apartment downtown. We shared bills, shared a life, shared routines that made me think we were building something solid. I didn't care about sports, but Logan loved basketball in a way that felt personal. He grew up watching the local team with his dad, memorized stats, argued about coaches, got genuinely happy when the season started. I loved that it made him light up. I loved seeing him excited about something that wasn't work. Somewhere around the 1-year mark, things shifted. It didn't happen with one big event. It happened in small disappearances, longer hours, more happy hours, more nights he came home late, smelling like craft beer and someone else's cologne, and he would laugh if I noticed, like I was imagining things. I didn't question it at first because I trusted him. I thought being supportive meant not asking for details, not making him feel monitored, not demanding proof he still wanted to come home to me. Brianna's name started showing up about 4 months before the ticket incident. At first it was harmless. Brianna had this hilarious idea for the campaign. Brianna brought donuts for the team today. I didn't think much of it. Workplaces have dynamics, people bond, and I didn't want to be the girlfriend who hears a woman's name and immediately panics. Then Brianna started appearing in weekend plans. "The team's going out for drinks. Brianna is organizing it." Logan would say it like it was normal, like it didn't matter that I was sitting there holding our grocery list while he talked about another night I wouldn't be included in. Then came the photos. Logan posted a group shot from a company bowling night, and Brianna was standing next to him, her arm around his shoulder, both of them mid-laugh, faces tilted toward each other like they had their own private world. I commented, "Cute, wish I could have made it." He hearted the comment, didn't reply. The next week he came home late on a Wednesday. I asked where he had been. He said, "We had a project deadline. Brianna and I stayed late to finish the deck." I said, "You didn't text." He said, "It was last minute. You know how it is." I didn't know. Not really. I worked long hours too, but I had never been too busy to send a 5-second message. Something in his tone felt off, defensive, like I had accused him of something, and the way he said her name, like it belonged in our apartment, made my stomach tighten. I let it go anyway. I kept letting it go because every time I tried to hold on to my discomfort, I could hear him turning it into a joke, or worse, turning it into my flaw. Then came the birthday dinner. Logan's birthday was in early October. I made reservations at this Italian place he loved, the one with the piano player and the dim lights that made everything feel romantic even when it wasn't. I told him 2 weeks in advance. He said he would be there. The night of, I sat alone at the table for 40 minutes. I watched couples laugh, watched servers refill water glasses, watched my phone stay silent until I felt stupid for looking at it. When Logan finally showed up, he was flushed and apologizing, sliding into the seat like he had been the one inconvenienced. Work thing ran late. Brianna needed help with a pitch. I stared at him and said, "You couldn't text." He said, "I'm here now, aren't I?" Dinner was tense. He checked his phone 3 times. I paid the bill in silence, because at that point, paying was what I did. I covered things. I smoothed things over. I pretended the imbalance wasn't slowly crushing me. On the walk home, he said, "You're mad." I said, "I'm tired." He said, "You're always tired." I didn't respond. We went to bed on opposite sides of the mattress, the space between us feeling like it had its own temperature. So when Logan told me he was taking Brianna to the game, it wasn't a surprise. It was confirmation. It was the pattern I had been ignoring, finally showing itself in full color. The courtside tickets I bought cost $847.50 after fees. I didn't blink when I paid it because I thought it was an investment in us, in a moment that would remind him I saw him, I chose him, I cared. I printed the tickets, put them in a small gift box with a handwritten card that said, 2 years down, courtside to celebrate. I was proud of myself. I thought he would cry. I thought he would kiss me and tell me I was the best. Instead, he shrugged and told me someone else would enjoy it more. And sitting there in the kitchen with onions burning my eyes, I realized something that scared me with how calm it felt. I wasn't angry. I was done. Done being the backup plan. Done being the one who plans and pays and waits. Done being the woman who keeps the relationship running, while the man she loves keeps testing how little effort he can give and still keep her. I finished making dinner. We ate in silence. He didn't notice. He talked about work like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just moved my place in his life to the far end of the table. That night, after he went to sleep, I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to his breathing. And something in me clicked into place. I started Googling moving companies, not dramatically, not with tears, but with a steady focus that felt like survival. I texted my buddy Kyle. "Can I crash at your place for a few days?" Kyle replied in 2 minutes. "Always. What happened?" I typed, "I'll tell you Friday." The next 2 days were a performance. I acted normal. I kissed Logan goodbye in the mornings. I asked about his day. I even smiled when he talked about the game. "Brianna is so hyped," he said Wednesday night. "She's never had courtside seats before." I said, "That's great." He looked at me, surprised, like he was waiting for me to crack. "You're really okay with this?" I nodded. "Yeah, I want you to have fun." He hugged me. "You're the best." I hugged him back and thought, "You have no idea what's coming." Thursday, I started packing small things first. Clothes from the closet, toiletries from the bathroom, the things that were mine before he ever came into my life. I worked in the mornings while he was at the office. I didn't take anything that wasn't mine. I left his stuff exactly where it was. I even left the dishes I bought, the coffee maker, the couch we split, because I didn't want to fight over objects. I only wanted my freedom. By Thursday night, I had 3 suitcases and 2 boxes ready. I hid them in the closet like a secret I was keeping from the version of myself that still wanted to believe he would choose me at the last second. Friday morning, Logan woke up excited. He was wearing the jersey I bought him last Christmas, the one he said made him feel lucky. He kissed me on the cheek. "Wish me luck," he said, like he was the one stepping into something important. I forced my voice steady. "Have a great time." He left at 5 p.m. The game started at 7 o'clock. I waited 10 minutes, just long enough to hear the building settle back into silence, just long enough to know he wouldn't come back for something he forgot. Then I called Kyle. Kyle pulled up in his truck at 5:30. We loaded everything in 2 trips. The apartment looked bigger with my stuff gone, emptier, like it had been holding its breath. I stood in the living room for a minute, staring at the space where my life used to be, remembering the first night we moved in, the way Logan twirled me in the kitchen and promised we were going to make this place home. Then I walked to the counter and took out a piece of paper. The note was short, 8 words, The same sharp simplicity the moment deserved. She can have the seats, and you. I left my key next to it. I locked the door from the inside and pulled it shut behind me. Kyle drove me to his place in silence. When we got there, he handed me a beer and said, "You good?" I stared at the bottle like it was an anchor. I will be. And for the first time in months, I believed myself. Update 1. Logan came home at 11:07 p.m. I know the exact time because that's when the call started. My phone was on silent, but I watched it light up on Kyle's coffee table like a warning signal that wouldn't stop blinking. 1 call, 2, 5, 10, 15. Then the texts started rolling in, stacked so fast they blurred into each other. "Where are you? This isn't funny. Call me back. Are you serious right now? We need to talk." I didn't respond. I didn't even flinch. It was strange how quiet my body felt, like it had already walked away before my mind caught up. Around midnight, Kyle leaned back on his couch and said, "You going to answer?" I shook my head. He nodded slowly, like he understood the kind of discipline it takes to stay silent when someone is finally panicking the way you've been panicking inside for months. Good, let him sit with it. At 12:14 a.m., my phone lit up again, but this time it was a different number I didn't recognize. I stared at it for a full second, then I picked up. Logan's voice came through frantic and shaking, like he had run upstairs too fast, like he had been crying and didn't want me to hear it. "Where the hell are you? Why is all your stuff gone? Did you really just leave?" I stared at Kyle's ceiling fan turning slowly and said, "I did." He inhaled sharply. "Over basketball tickets. Are you kidding me?" I kept my voice even. "It's not about the tickets." "Then what is it about?" The question sounded almost offended, like he couldn't believe there was anything bigger than his plans. I said, "You chose Brianna over me for our anniversary. You didn't even hesitate." There was silence, the kind that tells you someone is scrambling to find a lie that sounds reasonable. Then he said, "It was just a game." I felt my mouth curve into something that wasn't a smile. "And this is just a breakup." Then I hung up. He called back immediately. I declined. He called again. I declined. The calls kept coming, like if he pressed hard enough, I would turn into the old version of me, the one who softened, the one who explained, the one who stayed. A voicemail came in. I deleted it without listening. The next morning, I woke up to 37 texts. Most were from Logan. Some were from numbers I didn't recognize, friends of his, who had never cared enough to text me before. Logan's messages were a mess of panic and blame, apologies that didn't sound like remorse, just fear. "I didn't think you'd actually leave. You're overreacting." "I'm sorry. Okay, I made a mistake. Can we please just talk?" Then around noon, the tone shifted, like he decided anger would control me better than guilt. "You know what? This is ridiculous. You're acting like a child. I gave you 2 years, and this is how you repay me. Brianna and I didn't even do anything. We're just friends." I read every message. I didn't respond to a single one. Kyle watched me scroll, his jaw tightening. He's spiraling. I set the phone down. Good. By Saturday night, the story had spread. Mutual friends started reaching out, the kind of people who only show up when there's drama to watch. My buddy Eric texted, "Heard you moved out. You okay?" I replied, "Yeah, long time coming." He texted again, "Logan's telling people you flipped out over nothing." I stared at the words for a second, feeling something cold settle behind my ribs. Not pain, not shock, just a familiar disappointment. Of course he was. Of course he couldn't admit what he did without dressing himself up as the victim. I typed back, "Let him talk." A second later, Eric sent a screenshot. It was from Logan's Instagram story. A photo of the courtside seats, bright under arena lights, with a caption that made my stomach drop even though I thought I couldn't be surprised anymore. "Best night ever. Thanks for understanding, babe." He tagged Brianna. I stared at it until the screen dimmed. Kyle leaned over my shoulder. He really posted that. I nodded slowly. Kyle exhaled through his nose. "He's bold. I'll give him that." I felt my jaw tighten. "He's stupid." My hands didn't shake. That was the part that scared me. The calm. The calm meant I was past begging for decency. The calm meant I wasn't hoping anymore. I opened my messages and replied to Logan for the second and final time. "Saw your post. Glad you had fun. Don't contact me again." Then I blocked his number. Then I blocked him everywhere else. Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, LinkedIn, anything that could carry his voice into my life again, I shut it down. Digitally erased. It felt clean, like taking out the trash when the smell has been bothering you for too long. Update 2. By Monday, the fallout had reached Logan's workplace. Brianna had a boyfriend. His name was Ethan, and Ethan was not happy. I didn't find out through Logan. I found out through Eric, who heard it from his girlfriend, who worked in the same building. Apparently, Ethan showed up at the office that Monday morning, walked straight to Brianna's desk, and confronted her in front of the entire marketing floor. "Courtside seats with another guy," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "And you didn't think I'd find out." Brianna tried to calm him down, voice soft, hands raised like she was handling a dangerous animal. "It was just a work thing," she said. Her girlfriend bought the tickets. Ethan snapped back. Her ex-girlfriend. The office went silent. People pretended to type. Nobody moved. Logan, sitting 3 desks away, turned bright red. Ethan turned his head slowly and looked right at him. "You knew she had a boyfriend, didn't you?" Logan stammered. "I didn't. We're just coworkers." Ethan cut him off. "Save it. You can have her." Then Ethan walked out. Brianna followed him. She didn't come back to her desk for the rest of the day. Eric's girlfriend sent me the whole breakdown over text. I read it sitting in Kyle's living room with coffee, feeling lighter than I had in months. Not because I wanted anyone humiliated, but because reality finally showed itself without me having to scream for it. Kyle read it over my shoulder and let out a low whistle. Karma works fast. I stared at the screen. Sometimes. That afternoon, a message came through from a new number. I hadn't blocked it yet because I didn't know it was him until I read the first line. "I know you probably heard what happened at work. It's not what you think. Brianna and I really are just friends. Ethan's crazy." I didn't respond. I just blocked the new number and went back to my coffee. By Tuesday, more people started reaching out. Friends who had been on Logan's side at first started asking questions like they were finally letting themselves see the obvious. "Did he really ditch you on your anniversary? He took another woman to a game you paid for. That's cold." I didn't defend myself. I didn't trash him. I just said, "We weren't a good fit." Most people got it. A few didn't. Logan's best friend Sophie sent me a long message on Wednesday. "You didn't even give him a chance to explain. You just left. That's cruel." I stared at her words for a second, then typed back. "He had 2 years to not choose someone else. He failed." Sophie didn't respond. By Thursday, Logan had apparently tried to get Brianna to help him cover rent. Brianna refused. She said the tickets were his idea, not hers, and she wasn't responsible for his relationship drama. He posted a vague story on Instagram. When you realize who people really are, it hurts. Kyle showed me because I couldn't see it anymore. "He's trying to play the victim," he said. I looked away. Let him. That weekend, I got a call I didn't expect. It was Logan's mother. She had always liked me. She was the kind of woman who hugged you tight and looked you in the eyes like she actually cared what your day felt like. When her name flashed on my phone, my stomach twisted. Not because I was afraid, but because I didn't want to hear excuses delivered in a softer voice. I answered anyway. She didn't waste time. "I heard what happened. Logan told me his version. I wanted to hear yours." I closed my eyes and told her all of it. The tickets, Brianna, the pattern, the post, the exit. I kept my voice steady, but my chest ached in that quiet way it does when you say out loud what you spent months swallowing. She was silent for a long time. Then she said, "I'm sorry he did that to you. You deserved better." I swallowed. "Thank you. And for what it's worth," she added, voice firm now, "I think you made the right call." We talked for 20 more minutes. She told me Logan had been calling her crying every night, saying I abandoned him, saying I was heartless. She didn't buy it. She made her choice, she said. Now he has to live with it. When I hung up, I sat there staring at the wall, feeling something settle inside me that I didn't know I needed. Not validation, not revenge, just confirmation that I wasn't crazy for leaving. And that was when I realized Logan still thought the story was about the game. He still thought if he said the right words, I would come back and sit where he pointed me. He didn't understand yet that I wasn't waiting for an apology. I was done being available for the same disrespect in a different tone. Update 3. By the following Monday, the air around Logan had changed, even from a distance. I could feel it through the messages people stopped sending him, and the new ones they started sending me. When a story flips, it never does it quietly. It creaks, it leaks, it leaves fingerprints everywhere. I found out the rest in pieces, through people who had no reason to protect him anymore. Brianna didn't just have a boyfriend. She had a long-term boyfriend. Ethan had been around longer than Logan ever knew, longer than the stories Logan told himself to justify how close they were. The courtside seats weren't just a bad look. They were proof. Eric texted me late Monday afternoon. "It's worse than you think." I asked what happened now. He sent a voice note. His tone was low, like he was reporting from a crime scene. Ethan showed up again, not yelling this time. Calm. That kind of calm that scares people more. He talked to HR. He talked to Brianna's manager. He showed screenshots, messages, photos, the whole thing. I closed my eyes and leaned back against Kyle's couch. Logan had spent weeks telling me and everyone else that nothing was happening, that I was overreacting, that it was all in my head, and now the truth was walking through his office in broad daylight, wearing receipts. By Tuesday morning, the whispers had turned into something louder. Logan got written up for inappropriate conduct, not because he cheated, but because he let personal drama spill into a professional space and lied about it when asked directly. Brianna stopped coming to the office altogether. Ethan took sick leave and then never came back to the same floor. The team dynamic Logan loved so much collapsed under the weight of things that were never supposed to be exposed. Logan tried again to reach me that night. New number, different tone, less accusation, more desperation. I know it looks bad. I swear I didn't know about Ethan. Brianna lied to me too. I messed up, but I didn't mean to hurt you. Please just let me explain. I stared at the message and felt something hollow, not sadness, just distance. He still thought explanations were currency. He still thought if he could arrange the words correctly, he could undo the choice he made so casually in our kitchen. I blocked the number. The next day, Sophie reached out again. Her message was shorter this time. I didn't know about Ethan. Logan never told me. I replied once. He didn't tell you because it didn't fit the story he wanted you to believe. She didn't answer right away. When she did, it was hours later. I'm starting to see that. By midweek, the social gravity shifted completely. Friends who had defended Logan quietly stopped. Group chats went silent. Invitations stopped coming. The people who stayed close to him were the ones who benefited from not asking questions, and even they were thinning out. Logan sent one last long message on Thursday afternoon. He poured everything into it, apologies layered with self-pity, regret tangled with blame. He admitted he liked the attention. He admitted he took me for granted. He admitted he didn't think I would actually leave. That was the line that stuck with me. Not the apologies, not the promises, the assumption. I didn't respond. Kyle watched me delete the thread and said, "You know he's scared now." I nodded. He should be. But it wasn't satisfaction I felt. It was clarity. Logan didn't lose me because of Brianna. He lost me because he trained himself to believe I would always stay no matter how small he made me feel. By Friday, Logan's Instagram was quiet. No stories, no vague quotes, no passive-aggressive captions. Silence where there used to be noise. I heard through Eric that he was trying to transfer departments, maybe even offices, because walking into work felt like walking into judgment. The people who once laughed at his jokes now looked through him. That night, sitting on Kyle's balcony, with city lights flickering below, I realized something that felt almost foreign. I wasn't bracing for the next text. I wasn't replaying old conversations. I wasn't imagining what I could have said differently. The knot that lived in my chest for months was gone. Logan losing control of the narrative didn't feel like revenge. It felt like gravity doing its job. And somewhere in all of that fallout, I understood that I didn't leave to punish him. I left because staying was teaching him how to keep hurting me. That was the moment I knew there was no version of this where I went back update 4. When Logan realized silence wasn't pulling me back, he tried something else. He started rewriting the story. It happened quietly at first, the way lies usually do, when they're meant to sound reasonable. A vague post on Facebook. Sometimes people show you who they really are when things get hard. Grateful for the lesson. The comments filled up fast. You deserve better. His loss. Stay strong. People who had no idea what actually happened lining up to pat him on the back, like he was the one who had been left standing alone in a kitchen, holding a knife, while his partner shrugged him aside. I didn't comment. I didn't react. I didn't care enough to explain myself to strangers who had already chosen the easier version of the truth. But Logan didn't stop there. He never did. I started hearing things through mutual friends, little fragments that made their way back to me, no matter how much distance I put between us. He was telling people I was controlling, that I didn't like him having female coworkers, that I made him feel guilty for wanting a social life, that I was dramatic, insecure, jealous. He used words carefully, just enough to make himself sound patient and me sound unstable. The irony was sharp enough to hurt. I had screenshots, messages where he canceled plans with me to go out with Brianna, messages where he told me I was the best, the most understanding, the easiest girlfriend he'd ever had, messages where I asked calmly to meet his coworkers, and he brushed me off. I could have posted everything. I could have burned his version of the story to the ground in one afternoon. I didn't, because the people who mattered were already starting to see it on their own. Eric and a few others quietly corrected the narrative in private chats. Not publicly, not dramatically, just facts dropped where they belonged. He ditched her on their anniversary. She paid for the tickets. He posted about it like it was a win. That kind of truth doesn't need embellishment. It spreads on its own. Logan noticed. He noticed when people stopped liking his posts, when story views dropped, when conversations dried up, when the sympathy he expected didn't stick. He texted me from yet another new number. "You're turning people against me." I stared at the message for a long second, then replied for the third and final time. "I didn't say a word. You did this to yourself." Then I blocked the number and changed my phone settings to reject calls from unknown contacts. I was done, completely done. Meanwhile, Logan's practical life started collapsing in ways he couldn't post his way out of. The apartment we shared cost $1,800 a month. We split it evenly. Without me, he was on the hook for all of it. He tried to find a roommate. No one wanted to move in. He tried to break the lease. The landlord told him he owed 2 months' rent as a penalty. He couldn't afford it. He asked Brianna for help. She said no. She said the tickets were his idea, not hers, and she wasn't responsible for his relationship drama. She distanced herself fast, the way people do when they realize proximity comes with consequences. I heard about all of this through Kyle, who heard it through Eric, who heard it through people who were finally done protecting Logan's feelings. It sounded exhausting. I felt nothing. Then the call came that surprised me. Logan's mother. I almost didn't answer. I didn't want another attempt at reconciliation wrapped in a softer voice, but something told me this wasn't that. So I picked up. She didn't hedge. "I heard what happened. Logan told me his version. I wanted to hear yours." I told her everything. Not angrily, not defensively, just honestly. The tickets, Brianna, the pattern, the post, the exit. I told her how small I had felt for months, how carefully I had learned to accept less without making noise. She was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was steady. "I'm sorry he did that to you. You deserved better." I felt my throat tighten. "Thank you." "For what it's worth," she said, "I think you made the right call." We talked for 20 minutes. She told me Logan had been calling her crying every night, saying I abandoned him, saying I blindsided him. She didn't buy it. She said he made his choice and now he had to live with it. When I hung up, I sat there staring at the wall, feeling something finally settle inside me. Not victory, not validation, just peace. Logan still thought this was about damage control. He still believed the right combination of apologies and pressure could bring me back. He didn't understand that I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't waiting. I wasn't open to negotiations. I had already left the table update 5. 2 weeks after I moved out, Logan's life started collapsing in ways even he couldn't spin. The lease became real. The silence became loud. The people he thought would always be there stopped answering as quickly, then stopped answering at all. When attention dries up, you find out fast who was there for you and who was just there for the show. By then, I had settled into a new rhythm. Kyle's place wasn't fancy, but it was calm. I went back to the gym. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen much during the last year of my relationship. Friends who didn't ask me to explain myself, who just said, "You look better," and meant it. I stopped waking up with that tight feeling in my chest, the one that came from wondering what version of Logan I was going to get that day. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 3 weeks after I moved out, Logan showed up at Kyle's apartment. I wasn't home. I found out later through a text Kyle sent me while I was out grabbing dinner. "Your ex just came by. I sent him away. You good." When I got back, Kyle told me the whole thing. Logan knocked on the door around 9 at night. He looked rough. Dark circles under his eyes, clothes wrinkled, like someone who hadn't been sleeping, who hadn't been winning. He asked if I was there. Kyle said no. Logan asked if Kyle could give me a message. Kyle told him, "I can, but she won't care." That's when Logan started crying. Not the controlled kind, not the kind meant to persuade, but the messy kind that comes when there's no audience left to impress. He said he just wanted to apologize, that he knew he messed up, that he just needed one conversation. Kyle didn't soften. He said, "You had 2 years to not make that mistake. You don't get to apologize now." Logan stood there for a minute, crying on the doorstep, then turned and walked away. When Kyle finished telling me, I waited for something to hit. Satisfaction, guilt, sadness, nothing came. "Not my problem anymore," I said, and I meant it. By the end of the month, Logan had moved out of the apartment. He couldn't afford it. He posted a vague story about new beginnings with a photo of moving boxes. I didn't see it. Kyle did. He showed me out of morbid curiosity. I handed the phone back without looking twice. "You think he learned anything?" Kyle asked. Probably not," I said. "You think he regrets it?" I didn't hesitate. "I don't care." And that was the truth. For the first time in months, Logan wasn't taking up space in my head. I wasn't wondering who he was with or what he was doing. I wasn't checking social media. I wasn't waiting for closure. I was just living. A month after I moved out, I took a trip. I used the money I'd been saving from rent, dinners, and anniversaries Logan never really appreciated. I flew to Colorado with Kyle and a few other friends and spent a week snowboarding in the mountains. No drama, no lies, just cold air, burned muscles, and people who showed up when they said they would. On the last night, we sat around a fire outside the cabin. Kyle looked at me and said, "You seem different." "Different how?" "Lighter," he said. "Like you're actually here." He was right. For 2 years, I had been shrinking myself to fit Logan's life, adjusting my expectations so he wouldn't feel pressured, teaching him it was okay to choose someone else as long as he came home eventually. The tickets weren't the problem. They were proof. I don't regret buying those courtside seats. I regret buying them for someone who didn't value the gesture. I regret staying as long as I did, but I don't regret leaving. Walking away from that apartment, that relationship, that version of myself was the best decision I ever made. Logan texted me one last time in late December from a new number I didn't recognize. "I know you won't respond, but I'm sorry for everything. I hope you're okay." I read it, I deleted it, I went back to my life. People ask me sometimes if I'm angry, if I hate him. I don't. I just don't think about him anymore. He's a closed chapter, a lesson learned. Proof that love doesn't mean much if respect isn't part of the deal. Those courtside seats cost $847.50. Leaving cost me nothing. And getting my life back was priceless. Some people don't learn to value what they have until it's gone. Logan learned too late. I learned just in time.